is going to be very interesting to see if Coast decides to pick that up later. But since there was one accidental ban, that's 6 bans that are very deliberate because, man, those came out fast.
Yeah, so Nidalee, Gragas, and Dr. Mundo, the bans there for Coast. And over on the other side, we've got Leona, Catherine, and that's Sivir. Yeah, Sivir. So it looked like Jax for a second there, but it is Sivir. A lot of very straightforward bans here, Jack.
Yeah, so the big 280 carries that would still be up would be Lucian and Jinx. Those guys aren't necessarily priorities. Since Shyvana, the big top laner, was taken right off the bat, you can see the Elise locked in early. The other priority support that isn't Thresh would usually be Annie. I'm a little surprised they decided to go with the Thresh there.
Yeah, I mean, Nidus has a lot of Thresh experience. He's someone that's really played that champion a lot. So it might be something he's comfortable with. And speaking of comfortable, I'd be shocked to see, already locked in the Olaf.
Absolutely. Nintendo X's 2 junglers actually are Elise and Olaf currently. Olaf is the one that he had played before anybody else. Season 1, Season 2. If you were playing competitive League back then, you knew the jungler was Nintendo X on Olaf. These picks are coming in a little too fast, though.
Yeah, Jinx is in there as well. And Nasus, as you mentioned, also coming through there for the Walking Zed. So we'll have to see how else this develops, as Lucian has already been picked up as well.
Yeah, that's the combo just to go up against Jinx. And this mid lane pick is very quickly done.
I mean,
I was going to go off on a tangent and say, like, hey, maybe they're going to pick LeBlanc because Olaf has wave clear in the mid lane. But with Ziggs available, we saw Pobelter's Ziggs yesterday in the last promotion game.
It's pretty good.
It was rather strong. I think that's a smart pick by Shifter.
Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of mid players are going to start to default to now. It's just like, well, when in doubt, pick Ziggs, because he just seems so good, especially on this patch. I like this answer from Bishu, kind of. I like it for teamfight, but kind of depends what he goes with here. We'll see.
Bishu definitely trends towards more defensive mid lane champions, so he plays a lot of Nidalee, he plays a lot of Orianna as well. Either one of those can kind of work in this situation. It fits within his champion pool, but I think he's going to be at the mercy of Shifter for most of this game.
Yeah, especially with Gragas banned out there as well by Coast. He's really gone to Gragas constantly in his Challenger games, and it is Orianna that he gets in. So it's great for the team, but it's a really tough lane for Ori to deal with.
Yeah, both of these teams, now that we see them all locked in, are fairly flexible teams as far as having a good balance of magic and physical damage and crowd control and all those things, but something that definitely emerges is Coast has a whole bunch more AoE damage. Every single person on that team can really pack a large AoE punch in a team fight, and it's just going to be on Walking Zed to spread out a little bit, which can be difficult when they have Nasus and Elise trying to die.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about experience here yesterday, especially with Evil Geniuses winning yesterday, and I think one of the things here is that Coast seem to have the stronger lanes in this particular matchup based on the champions that have been picked, and a lot of the Challenger teams kind of rely on winning their lane in order to get ahead and snowball the game from here. But the Walking Zed, they're putting a lot on here and trying to win, potentially, and actually have team fights.
And of the teams that are challengers right now, the Walking Zed, I'd say, have the strongest team play, and they're not as reliant on the laning phase. So that's one thing they might have coming at them. I really got to see how Cortez does with the jungle Elise and if he can help out those lanes early.
All right, so as the teams load into the game, let's take a look at who you think is going to win their way into the LCS. According to LOLesports.com, only 57% of you think Team Coast will sail off with the win.
Yeah, that's actually a fairly low percentage, knowing how unknown the Walking Zed is, but it's going to be interesting to watch. And also remember, we got this again tomorrow on Sunday. Cloud9 takes on Fnatic to conclude the Battle of the Atlantic, and then Curse face off against Cognitive Gaming in the final promotion tournament series.
So we are getting into this game, Jet. What are the things you really like about these team comps that have been picked out here? Who will you pick straight 5v5?
Yeah, straight 5v5, it's absolutely Coast team composition. And I think that plays in a little bit to their play style. In all of the NACO games and even the NACO playoffs, Coast did a lot of very standard things in lane and just kind of played it out evenly. Then when the game really hit is when you started to see them fly ahead.
All right, so we are going to get into this first game here between these two teams. It is Coast versus the Walking Zed with LCS on the line here. A best of 5 as we kick things off with game 1 here. Level 1 action could see some things come out. 9 yellow trinkets all told, Jat, and 1 red one on the Coast side.
Yeah, we often see 10. And if there is the 1 red trinket, it often means that team is looking for a brute force invade right off the bat. What a way to start the game.
And then hopefully no other times here. Moving through now, almost a minute up on the clock here as Coast are taking on TWZ in their opening game of this best of 5 for the NALCS Spring Promotion. Everybody just going to hang out here and see what we can see. And we kind of expected this aggression here from Coast, just to move through the jungle.
They already got 1 ward on the other side. You can actually see Daydreaming didn't start with an Ancient Coin. He's all wards right now because they want to get very early jungle control. I do worry a bit for Coast since they're not used to making early game plays because they've been hiding all of their strategies in the NACL. That they might get a little overzealous, even though these are expected strategies for them. They're not something they've actually played live yet, so it's going to be a little risky them running and taking risks.
And it's one of those things when we think about the challenger scene, it almost feels like the teams have swapped roles a little bit here. TWZ are looking like, okay, we want to go for the strong mid-game team fight and be that experienced team fight team. And Coast are like, I'll win some lane here, get aggressive early on.
Yeah, Coast, so much AoE damage. I did like the point that Doublelift brought up about Wiz Fusion and not bringing Cleanse against Yazuki's Nasus. There will have to be a little bit of an emphasis on Zion Spartan to take down Yazuki at some point. Even with all these wards, it just seems like they're going to be trading buffs. I don't know what exactly Coast will be able to grab out of this.
No, so Zion, interestingly, grabs the red there. Don't know if that was a misclick.
Well, the Smite was actually used by Nintendo X, and they were both getting it, but they may be running in for a bit of a fight here. They're on top of a ward.
They are indeed. Bobby Hankill's going to have to get well and truly out of the way, and they're going to start the level 1 fighting. Daydreaming, looking forward for the AoE, and does find a bit. Nidus Domain forced to flash out in there as well, as Coast are going to continue chasing, but Nintendo, no blue buff, cannot continue undertowing.
No blue buff, no mana, and Smite still on cooldown. This could definitely set him back early on in the jungle.
Game started once again. We are going to get into it now. Coast versus The Walking Zed, still here in game 1. Almost 3 minutes in here with this one. Looks like we may have missed a bit of the action, but no kills, no turrets yet. And Nidus Domain immediately in trouble here as Wiz Fusion going to get in there as well, but just a bit of poking back and forth.
Right into the laning phase, and there's so much poke because they both want to hit level 2 first in that lane. And it's actually the AD carry and the support both up in the top lane this time.
Yeah, so we've swapped it around actually. We normally see the duo lanes down the bottom. This is what I like to call the Australian meta, Jat. It's like the standard meta, it's just upside down.
That's fantastic.
And looks like Zion Spartan down the bottom, just farming where he can. Nasus, interestingly, must have gotten here early because he's pushing in Zion a little. That's not normally what we see.
Yeah, I think there was that whole engagement already, but that top lane / bottom lane duo is just going crazy. Cautiously optimistic right now.
All right, so we are back in.
I believe that's an artifact of him leaving the game. It's just an old play because they had to rejoin when they were doing the client restarts, but he's moving around. We're in for now.
All right, things look good here. Gonna start things off. Coast versus The Walking Zed. Once again here, still game 1. Don't change that browser just yet. We almost had game 1. It's slowly happening. There's a good chance they can... So we are back here once again here. Hopefully everything has been fixed out nice and well here. And it's going to be Coast versus The Walking Zed in this opening matchup for the best of 5 here. Jat, we've done it a couple of times now, but I think we're finally back for the last time.
I hope you're right, FacerTime.
Me too.
You have to assure me. I need to be reassured right now. No, the lane here has hit a level threshold. Daydreaming and Wiz Fusion. They've managed to push back Bobby Ankill and Nidus Domain, and they're going to have supremacy in that lane until, like Doublelift says, the Elise comes in for the gank through double golems. But that's actually the opposite of where Kez is because he cares about Yazuki's Nasus.
He does. He's hanging out down the bottom. Zion Spartan could be in trouble. Good flash arrow from the Cocoon, but Repel going to follow in there as Venomous Bites on top as well. Looks like he might be okay. Just a bit of poke as he runs, but good gank there.
I think a little more patience in that gank, and they actually could have converted a kill. Kez threw out his stun while the Wither was on, and it was able to be flashed, but what he should have done is walked up and started hitting him, then waited for the flash and stunned afterwards. But either way, they get the flash burn, and I'd call that a successful game.
Yeah, up towards the top. Looks like Jinx pushing in there as Wiz Fusion and Daydream just trying to get some damage done. Shifter there in the mid. Big chunk of damage to Bishu, who's out of mana now as well. Has clearly been trying to defend pretty hardcore, and this is kind of what we expected early on in this matchup. Ziggs just going to push Ori in time and time again. Yeah,
Bishu's actually done a really good job sticking with Shifter this early on. Shifter was obviously down his Ignite from very early on in that little bit of a skirmish. It doesn't matter that Bishu was low on mana because it was just the right time for him to go back to base and buy that Chalice of Harmony.
Yep, so just going to keep pushing in now. Looks like Oriana's gone back and picked up the Chalice. As you pointed out, that's going to give Ziggs time to push into that mid lane turret now and try and get some damage done. And we saw it time and time again yesterday from Pobel to Ziggs. Ziggs really pressures turrets like no other AP mid can. Not only does he shove, but the short fuse for the turret damage is just incredible.
And Ziggs isn't normally the champion you think of as a roamer, but because Shifter can push this mid lane so fast, and because as a player he likes to roam so much, I think that's a real factor that the Walking Zed have to watch out for.
Yeah, I think that's actually something that's really, really nice about this, the way Coast have put together this team and the fact that they're playing Ziggs. Freak mentioned on the desk that Nintendo just likes to rotate in and put a lot of pressure down generally and really hammer home that mid turret. And they kind of get a head start here with picking his champion. And we're going to just trade farm back and forth.
I need to see how Nintendo recovers as well from the unfortunate events of his early game. His red buff was accidentally taken by Zion Spartan while his blue was being stolen away. He hasn't been able to really get any momentum swinging in the jungle on Olaf. There's a big hook though.
Good hook there. It's a daydreaming flay back in there as well. A stun out into Bobby Hankill and the trumpets go down, but first blood going to go to Thresh and now daydreaming. No, never mind, does go down there as Wiz Fusion now going into Bobby Hankill. They're going to look for the trade. Flash forward there comes out for Jinx, and that will be the kill. She's now excited, and that should be enough to get away. The Zigzag coming up towards the top. Good defense there.
Hey, right there. We got to see it twice. That was pretty nice. But Coast, and especially Wiz Fusion, decided to all in the instant Daydream on his hook. That was the only way they come out of that with a 1-for-1.
Oh, Kez, a great flash there. Cocoon actually hits a minion, but Shifter using the flash there anyway. And that's going to be a nice gank. Once again, Kez really putting the pressure on in this early game. And I have to say, that top lane, an even bigger win for the Walking Dead, not just for First Blood, because with no gold item there for Annie, they were really wanting to all in and be aggressive.
Yeah, I do say that that hook from Natus Remain was very on point. They picked the Thresh with Annie available because they are confident in their ability to win that matchup. The unfortunate thing that happened, though, is Natus Remain got the kill on Thresh, where Wiz Fusion got the kill on Jinx. So now it's actually a BF sword versus just a Vamp Scepter for Bobby Hankill. That's going to be advantage Coast.
Yeah, and all the pushing pressure from Jinx as well has given a nice healthy CS lead to Wiz Fusion in that lane, so things still looking good there despite the first blood going through. Stun there actually out the choppers on as well, but a good lantern out there.
Even so, that's over half of Bobby Hankill's health, and the wave is pushed against him, which is why we're actually seeing immediate assistance coming from Kez on Elise.
Yeah, going to rotate up there. Shifter in the mid, just going to hang out with Bishu, continue farming away. Bishu, as you mentioned, Jet, really keeping up in CS there, so nice early play on Orianna. That Chalice really doing nice things. As down the bottom, there's going to be an awful lot of farm happening down the bottom, Jet. Probably not a whole lot else.
Definitely if we're tracking these lanes, the Walking Zed is winning the mid lane and the bottom lane, where the duo lane is going to Coast. But there's another
good hook planted in there, so Daydreaming in a whole lot of trouble as he's forced to get away. But Nintendo, great counter gank here up towards the top as he's now maybe in trouble. The undertow coming through, the damage moves in, and now Jinx pops that passage there as Bobby Hankill now getting chased out as well. Nintendo needs to find the undertow, but the Rocket's going to get it instead. The Zap just misses as Natus Remain flashes out, and they're going to look for the tower up here. That's Wiz Fusion diving in there. Natus Remain in trouble. The triple kill for Ziggs.
That was just Jinx going crazy. A good counter gank by Nintendo, but mainly just heady target selection by Wiz Fusion, and that's that Jinx passive. 1 kill snowballs into 3, and that lane just got destroyed.
And we don't see the Jinx resets very often, but we're going to get him again.
This was another hook where Coast decided to fight almost immediately. He lands a good stun into a double axe right there, and Wiz Fusion can just go right in afterwards.
Yeah, and that's Bobby Hankill. You can see getting chased down. There was really nowhere else for them to go. Great rocket there from Wiz Fusion.
That rocket that he shot afterwards, and then he actually hit level 6, skilled up the rocket, and decided to continue the dive. All those things are very smart play, and it justifies the pickup of Wiz Fusion as their new AD carry.
Man fight down the bottom there. Zion Spartan getting low, trying to bait in Yazuki. Nintendo's rotated down, but that's Nasus going to pop the ultimate. Now Elise is in here as well. Shyvana got to be very, very careful. Now Nintendo kind of caught in the wrong place. Pops Ragnarok to get out of the way, and he is going to be safe. Cocoon will hit, but does not disable, of course.
Yeah, because he's Olaf.
He is Olaf. I mean, we've seen more Olaf kind of this weekend at this point. We're only halfway through.
Yep.
He's
we've seen really big in the North American promotion tournament so far. And speaking of being really big, like Yuzuki's Nasus is going to become a monster very soon. He's already got 132 bonus damage on his Siphoning Strike only 10 minutes in, and it's only going to get worse because Zion Spartan isn't going to reach a point here where he can really start pushing Yuzuki back in the lane.
I have to give massive, massive amount of credit to Nintendo, though. His counter ganking in the top lane really turned okay situation into an incredible situation for his team. And we were wondering, you know, Olaf's not really a ganker. Nintendo doesn't gank all that much. But that was right place, right time if there ever was one. And when you're jungling, it's all about decisions.
Yeah, and once Kez used all of his spells to re-engage, it was just the chase down that he managed to get 3 easy assists there by landing a couple axes, and then like it couldn't have went better for them. WizFusion got all 4 of those kills, and the first kill gave him the red buff, which was another thing that enabled all those things. If Nintendo had wanted the way back in this game after the bad early game accidental steal by Zion Spartan on red, that'll do it.
And you can see up in the top lane when we were just there, there's just so much bullying happening here. Bobby Hankill's falling swiftly behind in CS. There's even a pink ward in that piece of brush, just a spot for any ganks in. Really just kept complete control of vision of that area.
Yeah, and the lane is consistently pushed back here too. It's just creating more aggression opportunities for Coast. It's strange that WizFusion isn't pushing himself because he could. It's because they're actually respecting the Elise gank a hell of a lot, and it's working for them.
And Kez actually popped up there very briefly trying to go for that gank, but as you pointed out, Coast just really freezing their lane in a great spot there and denying any of their potential gank route. And that's really smart play. When you're ahead, the one thing you don't want to do is trade off or fall behind again. You want to keep your lead. And when you're ahead, keep getting more ahead is the classic phrase. And they're really doing it up there. And Intended, he's popping up again.
And we'll see if he can get this one. And there is no flashes on either Walking Zed guy. So if Daydreamer lands a stun, this is a kill.
The Zap actually missing there, but Nidus and Main could be in a whole lot of trouble trying to get through there. But the Tibbers will fall down. And now there's absolutely nowhere for Thresh to run. He is going to go down as Nintendo picks up the kill this time.
All over the place right now for Coast. They're getting advantages. Actually, during that last replay of the triple kill, Shifter soloed Bishu in the mid lane. If we're wondering how he got that 1 kill on Ziggs, now they're pushing this turret.
And that turret looks like it's probably going to go down here. Kez moves into defense here. Bobby Hankill trying to clear out what he can. Pops the culling there actually, just to try and get them off the top. But you can see that Jinx passive again. Doesn't just work on champion kills or assists, works on turrets as well. And very intelligently the Walking Zed back off.
There is a full 2,000 gold advantage right now for WizFusion over Bobby Ankill, and that is a whole team effort. It's been Daydreaming, getting the stuns when he gets hooked and deciding to go all in with the rest of his team, and the good ganks by Nintendo. This is all going to be on Yuzuki, really, to try and come back.
Yeah, I mean, Doublelift mentioned it, the NASA something that's quite good against his Jinx here, and WizFusion, his team were talking him up in that video saying, this guy's really good, he's done so much for our team, and he better carry this game at this point. He's been given all the tools and all the gold to do so. As Bobby Hankill up in the top, he's just trying to farm as much as he can.
And with his turret down, he can't freeze that for long. Otherwise, it's going to end up impacting the rest of his team. We can see now with WizFusion and Daydreaming down here, they're going to either pressure the Dragon or just do a straight-up turret push because they can. There's only 4 real people on the map for the Walking Zed, as long as Bobby Ankill is up in that top lane trying to farm.
Yep, pink ward up here for Daydreaming, so could be checking out this Dragon. Does throw down the ward there, and we'll be able to clear that out. And Bobby Hankill, as you mentioned, all the way up in the top. He's probably not going to get down here in time, and Coast are going to continue to solidify their pretty hefty gold lead early on in this one and pick up the very first Dragon.
And this is a good time to take the Dragon as well. You can see 163 gold going to everyone there. That's more what the Dragon was worth before the preseason here. I'm seeing a lot of teams really value the early Dragon. I don't think it's worth it early on in the game because they devote so much health and resources and lane presence to get that first Dragon before it's rewarding. But now, since Dragon's gold scales with the average level in the game, seeing that everyone's around level 10 or so, it's actually giving a hefty sum of gold at this point, and that's the best time, I feel like, for Coast to devote resources to get it.
Yep, Nintendo was down the bottom there. He's actually on top of a ward, unfortunately for him, but will do the thing and just rotate in, try and get some pressure down. But good movement there from the Walking Zed to make sure they can defend that turret and get everything moving on mid lane. Be interesting to see how Ziggs is doing in terms of turret pressure, and of course, with Bishu already going down 1v1, that's going to be that's unfortunate, as we see. Pretty good job here from Shifter. About a third of its health has gone down. Yeah,
he's been holding the turret fairly well. He's just got to worry about not dying, and there is more pressure being put on by Coast. This is the mid game they're normally so great at. They're taking control of some of this jungle and trying to get a steal. Not quite fast enough.
Good attempt there by Shifter, but couldn't quite get it done. No smite, no, actually maybe was available for Nintendo there, but
he just couldn't see it. Yeah, because they pulled the buff into the brush there and were able to spike it down before the Ziggs bomb got there first.
Smart stuff. And Jet, I want to draw attention here to the 80 carry item builds right now between these two teams. We're actually talking a little bit about it before the game. I like Trinity Force a lot, but I think in this situation especially, it just feels so awkward when the enemy has a Bloodthirster.
Oh, look out on this dive. There's that Bloodthirster.
Nidus going in. There's WizFusion going in again. The tower does get out. A perfect time to go in here under Jinx. The Zap just a little short there as Undertoad's going to look for it, but can't quite clean the kill.
Yeah. I'll talk about the item build now. The Lucian item build in particular. I feel like you want to get the Bloodthirster and the Trinity Force in whatever order you can. And the BF Sword would be great for immediate power. He just never had the ability to have a full 1,550 gold just to buy a BF sword. He's been dying so much or getting pushed out of lane so frequently. He's just trying to get as much power as he can possibly have for them now.
Yeah, Kez just missing a cocoon there as well. Bishu moving in, but nice flame trumpers being chucked down there by Jinx to kind of deny any of that, and Shifter left alone here. This is a lot of what we saw yesterday with Pobelter Ziggs, is that if you're left long enough with a tower, you're shoving in the lane every single wave, especially when you have blue. You'll eventually wear it down if people start roaming.
Those Ziggs auto attacks just finish off turrets and push them way faster than you'd expect an A3 champion to be able to do. It's like a demolitionist right there.
Yeah, it's actually a bit of a man fight happening here in the top, but looks like nothing will really come of it. And I want to draw your attention to the demolitionist aspect, Jack, because in Australia, actually, there's a couple of well-known Ziggs players. You might remember Team Immunity from the Wildcard tournament.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both Heaven's Curse and Rady, their AD carry, actually play a ton of Ziggs in solo queue. A Shifter him maybe going to get caught up, but daydreaming around the side as well. Nidus being a whole lot of trouble now as he's trying to flame it. Nintendo's in there as well. The Undertow's going to hit him straight in the face, and that kill is going to go over to the Ziggs.
Even if that hook landed, I feel like he would have died for that one. Not always a good idea to try to hook a Ziggs who's that beefy and farmed. Athene's on Holy Grail, and now it's just a roaming mob squad for Coast.
This would be a big dive, but WizFusion unfortunately hits a minion there with his zap, so they'll back away for now. The reason I mentioned those Australian players, though, they are famous for rushing Lichbane on Ziggs.
Oh, and just trying to kill the turrets as quickly as possible. Shifter's a player who does like building Lichbane, but I see him complete it a little bit later on Ziggs right there, because they clearly have no troubles killing turrets here.
No, I mean, oh, that's pretty good. There is a good stun going to move him for Daydreaming. Great repel to land it in there as well. Zion trying to push him back. That was a really smart play.
If Zion could have gotten him as he was going for Lantern, and he hooks in, I don't know why.
That's unfortunate for Nidus, but goes in a little too deep there. The team not ready to protect him, and he's very, very dead.
Doublelift and Freak were talking a little bit about tilting in these best of threes, and when you're not playing on this stage very frequently, sometimes that can get into you. And Nidus Remain had actually been playing very well in the laning phase, but things weren't going his way, and going in on that Thresh hook was definitely a tilt move. That is not a mistake he would make in the online group stage, but he just made it there.
And Coast going to continue to push here. The teleport is going to come in, but a good chomp is that Yuzuki caught up by that, slowed up by the zap as well. Nintendo gets caught, but he's going to pop Ragnarok and walk right on out.
Being able to get the inhibitor turret down this early in the game is huge for Coast as a team. Surprisingly, Shifter has just been hanging out in mid lane with Bishu this entire time, but I feel like the mid lane turret set is next up for Coast.
Nintendo caught up there, cocooned by Kez, no Ragnarok to save him there, but he'll be okay for that one. And you're right, it's funny, we spent a lot of time in our pregame kind of talking up this mid lane matchup, saying Bishu's such a strong force on GGLA and here on this team, and we're expecting big plays here from Shifter. He's been hanging, farming. Yeah. It's almost like top lane.
It's been WizFusion. That's
really
been the story here in this game. Him and Daydreamin', their synergy together, because the play that happened at the very start of the game that just got the 1-for-1 trade, not even the big one, when Daydreamin' got hooked and was essentially dead, WizFusion's trust and ability to just go all in on that hook is what saved them in that situation. You don't get that synergy unless you absolutely trust your lane partner. That didn't happen with Mashme and Daydreamin' last split, and that definitely doesn't happen with people in solo queue. So that's telling me WizFusion and Daydreamin' have a lot of synergy so early on in their competitive lives.
Yeah, credit to Nintendo as well, who really just wanted to go straight in for that 3v3, confident there that they could get that counter gank happening. We talked a lot about yesterday again where teams look confident when they're all going in together and being decisive as a unit. That's something you don't get unless you have a lot of practice together. And Coast, they are very experienced here, especially compared to TWZ.
And it was one of the defining factors in Evil Genius's victory yesterday as well, how well they were sticking together as a team. Obviously after they were able to grant leads, which is kind of a pretty key part of it, but just the way they played with Vision in the jungle, sweeping out all the wards, camping the right rushes, and almost imitating Fnatic. Coast, while not imitating Fnatic, is almost doing a bit of almost a Cloud9 impersonation, because they're just winning everywhere, taking all the objectives, and doing whatever they want.
I mean, again, calling back to Nintendo and how he seems to like to pressure a whole bunch of lanes. There's been nothing but tower pressure here from Coast, and that may be a product of Jinx specifically, or Nintendo's Olaf, who has good wave clear here. I mean, even the item builds here.
It's absurd. It's an absurd differential, 8,200 gold to 5,300 gold. When you look at those 80 carries, 5 turrets to 0 right now. This is really a strong showing so far game 1 for Coast.
Oh, look at this, just poking him off the turret, trying to do as much damage as they can. Even the ultimate from Jinx coming in. I mean, every now and then we see Gragas ultimates just to push people off the turret so you can siege them. Very reminiscent of that style of play there.
Yeah, he didn't even have blue buff when he threw that one out. They're just wanting to get this turret before their next back. You can see they're sitting on a bit of gold. 700 at least on every member, so about 3,500 to 4,000 unspent gold on their team right now. Once they get this turret, they might decide to go back, but they got it because they harassed the Walking Zed down so low.
And there's also nothing the Walking Zed can really do in terms of initiating. They just don't want to fight Coast here, and if they even force the fight under the turret, they don't feel confident enough to win it because they're just so far behind.
I would almost start thinking of the next game if you're Walking Zed.
I think so too, and I guess with that in mind, Jat, Coast almost 10,000 gold ahead. You mentioned the top lane gank with Jinx getting a triple kill there. I mean, what else really went wrong here for the Walking Zed?
So even though Bishu played well in the mid lane, it wasn't ideal. He gave up a solo kill, and that's never that strong. I think what went well for Walking Zed was Yuzuki's play 1v1 in the lane. That's about it, as far as I can tell so far for the Walking Zed.
So Coast here just really opening up strong, having a strong presence in Tendu with a good bit of play there as well. Getting them to a very, very strong lead here. It's not quite 10,000 gold yet, but we're pretty close here. And for me, this looks almost like an old Season 3 game when you look at the scoreboard. Not that many kills, given all the aggression.
And a lot of turrets.
A ton of turrets here. 6-0 here for Coast. I mean, they tried to change the fast switch, but Coast here really taking that philosophy still.
Absolutely here. Shifter's going to be able to get another blue buff. They're really just trying to execute out for this one. They've also placed a ton of pink wards so far in this game. There's still a few lingering in the Dragon River, and now a fresh one at Baron. Plus, they've all went sweeper, as you just pointed out to me on the screen there, so I get to see it. But 4 of them just to take complete control of this Walking Zed jungle. I see them just sweeping the jungle they're in right now so that even the approach to Baron is impossible for the Walking Zed to track, and then they could control it, or they're just realizing they're 10,000 gold ahead. And why not just brute force the inhibitor down? And
one of the things I like about kind of the preseason, as we do see Coast move in here, could be starting one of the last fights potentially of this game here. I mean, the Walking Zed, they're going to try and defend this inhibitor, but it almost feels awful here with Zig still poking you in. There's just so much damage, so much, just everything
so
here.
Much stuff. Everyone is items ahead. There's a whole bunch of items on Wiz Fusion. There's just now a Trinity Force on Bobby Hand kill. For a while, it was just a Phage and a Sheen to a Bloodthirster and a Static Ship. It's not fair if they fight right now. Even if they caught Wiz Fusion and bursted him down 100-0, I still think Coast comes out on top.
Yuzuki kind of looking around the side here, and you can see at least very far forward there. Annie as well. Flash Tip is at the ready. Actually popping the Talisman there, just wanted to get out safely. Smart play there from Coast, very safe here. We saw Evil Geniuses a lot yesterday when they were ahead, and they got quite ahead in their series. They played very, very carefully to close out their games.
And why would you not play carefully when so much is on the line for Team Coast? They know what it's been like. They were near the bottom of the LCS all throughout the spring until they made an amazing run in the playoffs, and then they didn't quite make it into the playoffs in the summer split, which is why they were the 7th LCS seed. Smart Baron right here for them. They had wards and swept the jungle before they made it there, and they just secure that Baron.
Yeah, very smart, very safe Baron coming out there from Coast. And I alluded to earlier, Trinkets. One of the things I like about what's happening with Trinkets in the preseason is that obviously as teams are learning about how this works, but it seems like the more ahead you are, the more red Trinkets you want. And we saw that yesterday from EG, getting 3 early red Trinkets when they had a lead. 4 is a massive amount here from Coast, but they just know they need to get vision. They have so much space on this map.
And I think because they have such a large lead, they don't really care about seeing where the Walking Zed is. They just want to make sure that they don't get seen. They're kind of just trying to move around in the shadows. If anything, if we're thinking long-term here, I'm wondering maybe the blue trinket might get a little bit of play for teams that are really far behind to not face check brushes that have been swept away when you're behind in the lane.
I hope the blue trinket sees some love, Jet. I'm a big fan of the blue trinket here, but Coast are going to push down yet another turret here and make it 7-0 on that count here. And just a massively, massively one-sided game, I think, at this point. Coast came out swinging, and the Walking Zed. I mean, I felt like with the momentum kind of stuff. Oh no,
here's the fight.
Orianna roll, that's good there, but still the damage moves in. Nidus the main dead very quickly there is Shifter, now getting chased out as well, but he's okay for now as Zion trying to peel off as Bobby Hand kill, gonna go down Wiz Fusion, killing everybody there with a double kill. Now gonna take on Yuzuki, takes a big chunk out, but Nintendo's gonna peel off for him, and that's gonna be the triple once again.
And Shifter didn't even go down in that one. A 25-minute ace, followed by the surrender.
And a huge, huge game there for Coast. They were the challenger team here. leading into this promotion series, and they're going to show it here. Absolutely massive game for them.
That was incredibly fast, incredibly decisive, and incredibly impressive so far by Coast. 13 kills to 1. The only death was in getting a kill early on in the game in the 2v2 lane between WizFusion and Daydreamin'. And the Walking Zed has a lot of recovery to do, because when a game goes that wrong for you, Pastry Time, you basically have to throw everything out again. You can't even take lessons from it.
So, Jad, I have to ask you, how much of that do you think was what happened in the early stages with a couple of technical difficulties and things not starting off maybe the way that they wanted to here? I mean, we talk about experience. Do you think they were a little tilted even maybe?
That could definitely be an impact. Like, sitting through about 30 minutes of technical difficulties as they had to do when they know that the biggest game of their lives is up. That's the thing. Coast, even though they're requalifying, they've been in a situation of having to qualify or having to kind of play for their spot in the LCS multiple times, and they would definitely be more used to sitting through that. If anything, it's the negative implication for the Walking Zed not being used to it, and credit to Coast for knowing what it's like and being able to just stay on it, because as soon as that pause ended, it wasn't many minutes later they got those triple kills.
Do you think that, given that we do have to throw everything out again now, that there's going to be changes made? I mean, do you see anything in that game and think maybe I want to ban that, want to change my picks around a little, or do you think they just say, all right, we're going to consider it an entire, almost first game again in the series and just go again?
It's so hard when everything loses, because you're like, well, because in the EG series, it was like Pobelter doing amazing on Ziggs, and we're saying, well, they should ban out the Ziggs. They didn't. They went kind of 0-3. Now,
yeah,
like,
I mean,
WizFusion, I feel like you could do that on a lot of AD carries. There was a Sivir ban in that game. They picked Lucian against it, which is considered heads up or better than Lucian in lane, and it didn't matter for them. If anything, I would just try and take some of Coast champions away from them. You can't really necessarily ban all those out, and just try and change up Coast as much as possible while organically changing your own team comp, because you're picking different champions by picking theirs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the number one thing is just stay calm. You know, it's a long series. You've got plenty of time to go back in here, collect yourself, breathe deeply, and just try again here. Don't get rattled by what's happening. From this point on, do you think the games are probably going to go a lot more smoother on the technical side?
Yeah,
so
I mean, we made it through the whole 25 minutes there afterwards without technical difficulty, so got all my fingers crossed.
All of them again. So we've got